Now we're going to go to comments from council members. Michael? Irene?
Thank you. I have two. First, there's a California coastal cleanup is taking place on September 21st, and even though San Bruno does not have a coast, we do clean up. So if you would like to join us, the BTF and several other volunteers will be in front of the Mosaic at the train station from 9 to noon, again on Saturday, September 1st. We'll supply all the equipment. All you have to do is come and join us. So that. Then I have something else I'd like to say. So in general, when planning commissioners and council members speak in public, even when we announce we are speaking as private citizens, our words have added perceived weight and significance. During a recorded public forum that took place Saturday, a candidate identifying herself repeatedly as a planning commissioner made the following statements several times: that the city of San Bruno was going to waive the development impact fees for the Mills Park project. That sounds like the city wasn't going to receive any fees from that developer. However, since several projects were in the pipeline before the fees were imposed, the council voted 5-0 not to impose the development impact fees on those projects. Instead, we negotiated through a development agreement that the developer pay $5 million of unrestricted funds with another $5 million if the developer elected to develop for sale condos. This information was included in the staff report and verbalized at a planning commission meeting. Developers listen to our statements. We need to be careful that we don't give the wrong impression that the city of San Bruno generally waives development fees. Another statement made by this planning commissioner was that the commissioners had received information that the owners of Bay Hill Shopping Center want to demolish the shopping center. This is not true at all. This misinformation can cause anxiety for the people who have businesses there and who are employed there. It is irresponsible to make these kinds of statements in a public forum. I ask the person making them to refrain from doing so and to correct any misconceptions that our statements may have caused. Thank you.
Laura?
Nothing.
Marty?
Yes, I'd like to invite everybody here and everybody watching tomorrow morning at 7:45, so you might have to get up early, at Bel Air Elementary School. Safe routes to school, they're going to have a Bel Air walk audit. And so basically, we're going to meet there and we're going to walk the school route and we're going to look at what safety improvements can be done there. I went to one in Daly City. It's very, very informative. They have experts that provide the recommendations. So the whole community is invited. 7:45, Bel Air School tomorrow. Coffee and some light refreshments will be served.
Thank you. Okay, I have one thing, and then I'm going to have a long statement when we adjourn this evening. The one thing I want to make a comment is last meeting on the 28th, I talked about Stand Against Hate, and that was something that came from the East Bay that was coming into the county. Yesterday I met with the mayors of Millbrae and Burlingame, who are enthusiastic about moving that forward, the mayor of South City. We collaborated and would like to send out a letter to our colleagues throughout the county and the supervisors to ask each community to celebrate in the sense of bringing to attention through November 17th through the 23rd. As we know what goes on in our communities, in our county, in our state, in our world, sometimes I think we need to pause and remind ourselves and each other that none of us want the violence. We need more tolerance, and we certainly do not stand for hate. So with that said, if the council's in concurrence, I wanted to bring a resolution. One was already passed in another neighboring city, so I'd ask if I could do that at the next meeting. With that said, I'm going to move on to adjournment, but obviously I think there's a couple things that need to be noted. Nearly 3,000 people of various ages, professions, ethnic and religious backgrounds died by the terrorist attack on our nation on September 11th, as tomorrow it will mark 18 years ago that this happened. As you awake tomorrow and remember the sorrow and pain our nation went through and felt that day, I ask you to pause and take a moment to remember those that were lost and the pain their families and the survivors still face today. Yesterday marked in this city 9 years ago since the PG&E gas line explosion, and yesterday I attended a remembrance in the neighborhood that I have attended since the second year due to the first year being at Skyline College. I took time to reflect from that night when Mayor Ruane and I as Vice Mayor arrived shortly after the explosion, watching those injured and none leaving the area and the shock and disbelief on their faces. And the months and years after, with all that happened to our city and the changes we have made to make sure this does not happen to another town or city again. I had attended every funeral that was held for those that died, which was one of the hardest things I have done in elective office. And there is no training or truly being prepared for that. I also remembered how impressed I was on how all the staff from all the departments responded and came together and dealt with the disaster while keeping the city operating day to day at the same time. And of course, our residents, the courage, resilience, support, and love that this community showed during this disaster. We were truly one. I want to tell you a story that I have shared with a few, but not in this venue. After the explosion, Jim and I visited some of the injured at a burn ward. A year went by, and the last funeral was held since the daughter was so injured she was unable to attend her mother's funeral until then. It was a private funeral, but I was honored to be asked to attend. It was the most upbeat out of all the services I had attended, maybe due to the time that had passed, and it was more of a celebration of life with laughter and stories. After the service, I was asked to attend the reception. While at the event, at one point, who I had talked to at the burn ward and I had a beer and turned the corner to see his wife and her sister who had been in the burn ward and not knowing what their future may hold. I turned to him and said, "Did you ever think a year ago when we met in the burn ward that you and I would be standing here together today watching them dance again?" He replied, "No." At that moment, we toasted, and I realized that we must never lose hope, always keep the faith, and never underestimate the ability of people, no matter what the circumstance. I ask all of you for a moment of silence in the memory of those lost on September 11th, and to our 8 San Bruno Angels that lost their lives from that tragic night on September the 9th. They are remembered and will never be forgotten. With that, thank you. We will adjourn this regular meeting to be the next one to be held on September the 24th, 7 o'clock, right here at the San Bruno Senior Center. Enjoy the rest of your week.